The Stage Door Show, celebrating the independent artist. With your host, Dave Hondel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Stage Door Show. Tonight, my guest is an amazing actor that you've seen in shows like General Hospital, Fuller House, Hawaii Five-0, CSI Vegas, NCIS series, including New Orleans, Disney's Moana, and many, many more. And we're so happy that he's with us tonight. So please welcome to the show, Michael Sun Lee. Thanks for joining us, Michael.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on the show. I know we spoke a while ago. I'm so happy that you're with us tonight. So thank you.
Thank you for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, if I want to start out, because I know you grew up in Hawaii and
right.
I know that, being a kid growing up in Hawaii, was it ever your plan to be an actor? Because I know, LA is still a long flight away, and, there might be some things happening in Hawaii. There's some shows being shot there and so forth, but was that something that you really wanted to do, or was it more when you get to college and did some musicals and things like that? What was your plan when you were younger?
I had no plan growing up. So, I discovered acting mainly in college. I was flunking out, and a counselor suggested I take some classes that I would enjoy. So I'm like, well, I was always curious about acting, and I always wanted to perform and do stuff. So maybe I should take an acting class. And so I took an acting class, and my GPA went up.
Wow.
And so I ended up graduating college, actually, because I got into acting. I think I had no intention of finishing college. I just wanted to do all the plays that they were offering. So I started off in musicals.
Sure.
But I had been going to college so long, I'm like, you know what? Let me just try and finish. Yeah. So that's what I do. And college was the hardest thing I ever had to do. So
yeah. You said you did well after you got into acting. And one of the things that we talk about on our show quite often, actually, is the fact that people that get into the creative arts, we feel test better in school.
Right.
Maybe, because they have to use certain parts of their brain a little more creative. So that could help, people pass classes that you might not normally pass. So did you find that to be the same with you?
Yes and no. It kept me in school, but school was equally as hard, if not 10 times harder than acting and, singing and dancing and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I graduated with a communications degree. At first I was a drama major, but I did not want to take all the other supplemental classes that you had to take, like costume design, lighting, stage building.
Yeah.
So I just switched over to communication because it's more marketable. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something to fall back on, right? Yeah.
Right. Which I never really had to fall back on, really.
Right. Which is great. Yeah. Not unlike many actors, right?
Yeah. You don't need to. Yeah. You don't need a communications degree to be a bartender. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I got you. Now looking back at it, as you've been in the business for a long time now. I mean, have you ever looked back and said, man, I wish I would have taken that wardrobe class, or would have taken, the lighting class or things like that. Now that I'm in the business, do you feel like some of those classes are benefiting you now and you're glad you did it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and you don't see it while you're doing it, but you definitely can put two and two together.
Yeah.
When I first got asked to do General Hospital, I showed up on set. I hadn't done much work before on soaps, at least.
Yeah.
So I show up, and the director goes, "Oh, great! We got to do a rehearsal, and then we're going to go to lunch." So I show up. I said, "Great, let's rehearse." So we rehearsed this scene where I had all this blocking, but there was no set pieces.
Sure.
Yeah. And so he goes, "Okay, so you're going to go here, deliver your first line. You're going to do something here, and then you're going to move over here, and then Ken's going to walk in, and then I'm going to have a trash can over here or something. Maybe have you do something there. And then when Ken walks in, you cross to him, and then you guys have your scene. I'm like, okay, great. So we rehearsed it quickly for camera, and then we went to lunch. But after lunch, I came back. I didn't remember anything.
Oh,
You know, and none, because none of the set pieces was there. There was supposed to be like this evidence shelf and, you know, some other, you know, police
right.
squad room, you know, kind of set.
Yeah.
And so when I showed up after lunch, everything was there. But I'm like, I have no idea what the blocking
Right.
was. But because of my theater training, I was like, you know what? This is the time to either win or fail.
The show must go
So
on.
I'm like, yeah. So I had like maybe 5 minutes to think of stuff to do, because they were, you know, on soap operas, it's like a machine.
Right.
You know, so I went to the prop guy. He gave me the gun, you know, everything else. And I'm like, can I have that clipboard, and can I have that pad there, that evidence pad or whatever? And he goes, yeah. So I was able to use it all.
Right.
And with my blocking, and I'm like, I'm just going to do this here. And then when he comes in, I'm going to learn how to put that up here. And then I'm going to do the scene. And once they said action, we did it once, maybe twice. And they were like, great, move on.
Really?
And I'm like, am I done? I'm like, he goes, yeah. And he goes, they're like, we're going to have you back. I'm like, great. And I've heard that before and never been asked back. But this time they meant it. And I think it was because I had the confidence to just, you know, execute the scene as I saw it, because I forgot what the director told me just a half an hour prior.
Well, I find that, you know, a lot of people that do soaps, you know, yourself included, I mean, you've done a lot of soaps, and what I understand, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but with soap operas, you have to do it right, you know, first couple times, because they don't have time to do a bunch of retakes, right? I mean, so it's either get it right or they move on and keep whatever mistakes, I guess, people make. But is that the way it is in soap operas mostly?
Yeah. Maybe 1, 2, maybe maximum 3 takes from what I have seen.
Sure.
And usually when you do an extra take, it's a technical thing, or, you know, somebody didn't hit their mark, or, but yeah, and I like that, because I'm very good on the first couple of takes. I'm very good on the first take, especially.
Yeah.
So I think they like that. They like that I don't waste time. Everyone's very nice. It was like the nicest.
Oh, really?
Sets I've been on were soap opera sets.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's like a family, and they just seem happy to be there.
Oh, really?
You know, happy to be working.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, no matter how big the star is or the lead of the show is, it's just a bunch of actors trying to work out a scene.
Hey, it's Dave from the Stage Door Show. Have you ever wanted a digital business card that would speak for you? Well, let me introduce you to TalkingVCard. Imagine this, a business card that doesn't just sit in somebody's wallet, but actively introduces you, shares your latest work, or even a special message. That's what TalkingVCard is all about. It's modern, environmentally friendly, and has been an absolute game changer for networking in this digital age. Now here's the most exciting part. For a limited time, you can get lifetime ownership of your very own TalkingVCard for only $99. Plus, to ensure you're maximizing its potential, they're offering a free consultation to help supercharge your brand. As many of you know, TalkingVCard is a proud VIP sponsor of our show, and I've been using it personally. The feedback has been absolutely amazing. For everyone tuned in right now, if you're looking to make a lasting impression and elevate your brand, I genuinely recommend giving TalkingVCard a try. There's a unique link on our show notes that'll take you straight there. And remember, maybe the next voice somebody hears from a digital card will be yours. Stay creative and stay connected. TalkingVCard. Yeah, I mean, and being in the theater, like you said, I mean, there's a bit of improv that goes on in the theater. If something does happen, you have to make it work. So, and that's another thing that I talked with actors. I mean, people that ever had stage training or improv training, you know, and you do TV or film, you know, does that help in that category? And it most all the time does. If you have to pivot and do something else. Yeah,
I mean, it definitely helped. I never thought it would.
Yeah.
propel me into anything successful. But, General Hospital has been very good to me over the years. I haven't worked there in a couple of years, but I was like, wow, this is where my theater training really came into play. It gave me the confidence to just apply movement.
Sure. Right.
To the scene.
Yeah.
So, but you don't know that until you utilize it.
Right.
Exactly. That really helped me out, in that aspect.
Do you have like a certain role that you really enjoy playing? I mean, of all the stuff that you've done, is there one thing that you kind of gravitate to and say, man, I hope to do that more often in the future?
It would be three things. Law enforcement. I love playing law enforcement or military. Bad guys, criminals, because there's a fine line between those two.
Right.
They're very similar.
Yeah.
And comedy. I love doing comedy, even though I don't have a comedy face. I kind of have I have an RBF. I have a resting bitch face, so I kind of gotta keep that in check.
You gotta always watch it, right?
Which can be exhausting because people might think I'm upset. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
I get that.
Is everything okay?
Too.
Can I get you anything? Are you? I'm like,
is anything wrong?
Okay.
Yeah, no, nothing.
I'm just waiting to go on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But So we'd be law enforcement, criminals, and comedy.
Yeah. I mean that's obviously it's nice because I saw Fuller House and all these different things that you've done. I mean you kind of ran the gambit of different things that you could do as an actor, and just like a soap opera, stage work. And I also just learned today from my research that you were in Austin Powers Goldmember, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
That was like when I first moved to LA. They were looking for Japanese. I'm half Japanese, even though I don't have a Japanese name. So I submitted to be a background player in a scene that took place, I believe, in Japan.
Yeah,
and we were all supposed to be running away from. Not Godzilla, but some other kind. I forget the premise of the bit, but I had the best time. So it was background work,
right?
And I guess somebody noticed my background work on that night. I only worked one day on that, one night on that,
sure,
which was a big Asian call. And so I guess they saw the way I do background work. They're like, "Oh, we want to get you and a group of people in a special scene for a cutaway." So I'm like, "Hell yeah!" I'll, as an extra, I was like, "Oh, I get camera time." And so awesome. they selected me and a couple other people to do this one cutaway bit in that movie that ended up getting cut out. But
okay,
it was a really
it's
great
always a
time.
bummer.
Because I thought they were going to leave that in.
Right, exactly. I did something. I did a scene with Tim Allen one time, and I was so excited to go to the theater and watch it, and then they cut the entire scene out of the movie. I'm like, well, there goes my 15 minutes.
And you don't know until you watch it, right?
Right. I didn't know. Yeah, it was kind of funny.
Right. And then you kind of over the years you understand why they cut it. It's pacing, and even no matter how great the scene is.
Yeah, it just didn't make it. It just didn't add to the film at all. But on that one, it was fun just to be there though with the actors and get to know like how things work on set. And and for our listeners that are out there listening right now are independent artists, this is a perfect time to talk about this. But how about talk about getting those background scenes and talk about auditioning for things that maybe aren't the lead role, but when you're just getting started, talk about the importance of learning what a set really does and how how sets run and what the director does and what the first assistant AD does and all these things. So talk about the importance of taking those roles, I guess, when you're first starting out.
You learn a lot doing background work. You see how sets work, how people are treated down the line there.
Yeah.
So as a background artist, they call it, you learn a lot, and you either love it, hate it, or are indifferent to it.
Sure.
So the trick to background work, if you want to work multiple days, is to not be seen. Because if you're noticeable in a scene, they won't use you in the other scene. Otherwise, the audience will say, hey, that's the same guy that was in the cafe.
Right.
Why is he in the police station?
Sure.
So when I was doing background work, that was kind of the strategy to get more days.
Right.
To not be noticed, which is counteractive to an actor. But like, you're trying to, maximize the number of days you work. And for stunts also, it's the number of days you work. So sometimes you would see an actor on a movie that was in 1 5-second scene, but they could have been working for 3 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
On that one stunt. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, the speak with actors is sometimes, oh, you worked on that? How many days did you get? It's not how big of a part you had or how many lines did you have? It's not about the lines, because you still get paid the same day rate, whether you have 1 line or 7 lines, depending on your categorization of co-star, guest star, So I think background work, I wouldn't do it forever. I know people that just do it forever, and that's all they want to do. That's fine.
They enjoy
I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah.
I'm kind of jealous of that they enjoy just that.
You can make a living. Yeah.
Yeah, because and they actually, a lot of them actually make a better living than the actual actors.
Because there's a lot more productions that they can do background. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's consistency of the days and the hours and the paycheck. Whereas let's say you get 1 guest star. What if that's the only one you get for the whole year? You got to live off that money if you don't have a survivor job. Yeah. So I've met a lot of commercial background actors that make great living.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Make a great living, because the rate on a union commercial is a lot higher than on a feature or TV show.
Well, then if it's a national commercial, I think it's even more, right? I mean,
for sure.
Time it plays. Yeah.
Yeah. If you not as a background actor, but if you get upgraded to a principal, because that can happen in commercials, which is one of the reasons some people do commercial background work only. Not only is the pay great, I think the last time I did it, it was like 300 something for one day as just an extra on a commercial, on a union commercial.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a friend who moved here to become an actor, and he ended up just doing that.
Wow.
He bought a house, and they knew him. They knew him so well that he ended up wrangling his own extras for specific needs. So, but he also had this thing in the back of his mind where he really wanted to be a principal actor.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to pick and choose.
Yeah, exactly.
But I told him, I said, look how much money you make. Like, you're not starving, and you're making like, I think he was making close to 6 figures, to be honest with you.
Background.
Yeah. Because with on commercials. So
on commercials,
overtime and all that. Sometimes you get bumped,
right.
To principal, and they got to pay you the day rate, and then you get residuals from that.
Right.
So, but here in LA, it's very competitive, that work. Getting commercial extra work is very competitive. It's kind of like being a looper, doing dubbing. That's a very tight, close community that don't share info, because it can be so lucrative.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about, voiceover type work, because, I know a lot of actors that when they're not doing films and TV, I mean, you can hear their voice during, doing commercials and doing voiceovers and in shows and so forth. I mean, like, so you're saying that community is tight. That's what you're saying. The voiceover community is tight as well.
Yeah. Well, mostly the ADR groups, the loop groups,
like Foley type of thing, like
the Walla Walla groups, like the hey, that's my car, like just nondescript kind of dialogue. It's called ADR, after dialogue recording.
ADR, okay.
Yeah, so there's people that just do looping for a living.
Wow.
A lot of former actors who you used to see in the 90s, even the 80s, you wonder what happened to them, and you look them up, and they're part of like loop groups, and that's all they do.
They probably
Yeah.
make good money doing just that, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially if it's a union, because that's how I got on Moana. I was doing ADR. I came in after the principal
Yeah.
shooting or recording was over, and they needed, people to voice villagers, on Motunui and all that. And so that's how I got in. And so, but the contract was a day player contract. You get played as a day player, a union day player. So, so you get residuals from that. So a lot of those people make a living like that, and you would never know.
Yeah,
you would never know, because I had a friend who was doing it for a while, and he said they were very they don't share information, like and if you're an outsider coming into a loop group, you can definitely feel that.
Sure, right.
That you're an outsider, and because they don't. It's just you don't
feel the warm and fuzzies.
Yeah, and he said like a lot of those guys, that's all they do. They're driving away in their Mercedes, and they're making good living. So I'm like, that's smart, because why struggle all year to get that principal role? On
voiceovers for a living. You can just go in, do your thing, and go home. I know that obviously in the news right now, the writers and the actors strike is going on, and as an actor yourself, I mean, is it going to be sooner than later, or are we in for a long strike, do you think?
I think we're in for a long strike.
Yeah.
At least, I would say at least until October.
Okay.
However, I just heard that the AMPTP is going to be going back to the negotiation table with the Writers Guild. So I think it would start with the writers first, to secure their deal, and then we try to secure the actors deal.
Sean William Scott, who played Stifler, obviously, and
right.
American Pie, was talking about his, the first American Pie movie, how he got paid almost next to nothing for the role.
Right.
And then
I think he bought a Pinto, or
he bought like a $5,000 car, and then he had to go back to selling churros.
Right.
But I think as people that are listening, of course, they hear stories like that, and they can be discouraging, obviously. But my thing is just hang in there. I think things like no matter what kind of work you do this because you love it. And, I talk to a lot of actors, and you're not doing this because you have to. You're doing it because you have a joy and a passion for acting out there. And my message to them is, don't give up. Things like this happens in any industry, strikes and so forth. But as far as, your advice to somebody like that, what kind of advice can you give as an actor to a fellow actor that's just getting started and maybe looking at the strike going, man, I don't know if I want to get into something like this. This is like, scary. I don't know if I can make money and the whole thing. Right. But what kind of advice can you give to somebody, that wants to do what you do?
I would say to do what you can, where you are, as much as you can, and saturate that market. If you're not in LA or Atlanta or New York, do whatever you can where you're at. And when you never really feel ready, but when you do feel ready, then move to a bigger market if you want to. I know people in very tiny markets who are somewhat famous in their market, successful in their market. Yeah. That they just stay. And it's a smart move, because you're still doing what you love and making a great living at it, Right. But if you want fame, then you're going to have to go to, Hollywood or New York, or I would say maybe even Atlanta.
Right. Yeah.
Also to treat it as a business. Mm-hmm. Treat it definitely as a business, and don't think that because someone or even you have visibility, that equals money.
Right.
Because, in Hawaii, I get asked the question, what happened to this actor? What happened to this actor? Because they're not highly visible anymore.
Right.
But you check their IMDb's, they've been working the whole time.
The whole time.
Just not on big visible things. And visibility doesn't mean money.
Right, correct.
Because look at these loop group people. They have no visibility.
Right.
Making great money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't look at just being the principal actor means that you're gonna, be rich and famous. That could be the people that are making the money and the living at doing what they're doing might be behind the
Right.
scenes. They're doing something that's still acting, but maybe
Right.
they're not in front of the camera all the time.
Right. But visibility does help.
Yeah, for sure.
It can help because it's familiarity. Oh yeah, I know that guy. Yeah, let's see him. I seen him on this. Let's bring him in. There's more of an insurance.
Right.
You know, that's why they always go with names.
Yeah.
You know, that's why they always, I mean, I've lost a couple roles this past couple years, last year and the year before, 2 names, people I knew.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and I even suggested that. I'm like, why don't you just get that person? They're like, oh, we're talking to him.
Yeah.
So in other words,
yeah,
they got offered. They just haven't accepted yet. So they got to find find backups. Which I was just having a discussion today, which would be me and whoever's. You know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of movies that come out that's like, somebody big or famous or whatever, and it comes out years later that somebody else was actually offered that role but turned it down or whatever. So you just never know like who that person's going to be, and then they made the role iconic, but it might not have even been that person. It might turn out completely differently if it wasn't that person, right? So you just never know.
Like Colin Farrell, he's made a career out of that as not being first choice, but maybe second, third choice. And Hugh Jackman talks about it, how he most of the time he's coming off he goes, I'm happy coming off the bench. I don't need to be the first guy offered, but if it's scheduling and all that, right?
Right.
If Tom Hanks can't do it, he's a conflict with the schedule, they're gonna go with someone else. Like Tarantino and John Travolta. He wasn't the first choice for that role in Pulp Fiction.
Right.
I'm pretty sure I think it was Michael Madsen. That's what Tarantino said.
Yeah, I heard an interview that he did talking about that, but like it just happens in a lot of different movies that you don't realize, and it's been happening for years. I mean, Wizard of Oz, same thing, because of the makeup. Buddy Epson wasn't able to do the Tin Man, because of the makeup, so you just never know. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, because you've done a different variety of different types of acting, but what was your toughest role, I guess, on location somewhere based on the elements and the weather? And, was there a challenging role you had to play that you had to kind of suck it up for because of the elements that you were in?
That is a good question. Thinking back, it was doing background work.
Oh, okay.
I accepted this background role that lasted maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. It was a movie called Wind Talkers.
Okay.
It was a Nicolas Cage. It was about the Native American wind talkers in World War II that would send codes in their native language,
right? So
that the enemy couldn't figure out what the message was. Anyway, it was that movie, and so they needed a whole bunch of Japanese extras. So I had a bunch of friends. I was already in LA, but they shot a whole bunch in Hawaii on Oahu. So I had a bunch of friends that were shooting it there.
Okay.
Like, hey man, you should try and get on it when we go to LA because a bunch of us are coming to LA. So I'll come join you guys. I'll shave my head and I'll stick it out with you guys. And so I ended up going to the big cattle call that they had here.
Sure.
Ended up getting, a background role on it. I had to shave my head.
Oh, you didn't have to shave your head.
I did.
Yeah,
so what I did was I cut my hair before I went in so that they wouldn't cut it any further. But they're like, no, it's just no. And so when I got the set, they're like, oh, we still got to shave it. I'm like, oh man, I just spent $15 trying to have a cool haircut that would pass. But, and like, you don't know how many days you're going to get. So like to shave your head, that's kind of a big commitment.
That's true.
I ended up working a few weeks on it, but it was very challenging because it was kind of dangerous. It was an MGM movie, I believe, and we had very minimal safety training.
Oh, wow.
So we had to shoot these Arasaki rifles. So a lot of times, like the discharge of the blanks came very close to us.
Whoa.
A couple of friends had those steel barrels fall on them because during the battle scenes they would blow up one of something and it was it was kind of dangerous and grueling because it was freezing cold.
Oh, is that
And
right?
I don't do well in cold, and it was freezing. It actually snowed one day. This is Southern California.
Southern California, it snowed?
It actually snowed.
Wow.
We were shooting in an area near Saugus, which is kind of near Magic Mountain, sort of in that area.
Right.
And it snowed one day because we shot over winter. It was like we shot in December till January. So a lot of us got the flu because it was.
Plus you got sick. Wow. So Michael, when it's all said and done, I ask this of everybody, but when it's all said and done, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to think of when they think of Michael Sunley?
That I tried. Simply that I tried. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I risked it all and I tried. Haven't succeeded yet, but I'm still here. I guess I'm crazy. Yeah.
No, but you've done a lot, and you've done a lot already. And we're fans and, just amazing work that you've done. And, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on our show and helping our listeners out with your advice and so forth and talking about your career path. That means a lot to me and our listeners. So thank you. And how can people get a hold of you, or how can people follow you on social media?
I'm on almost all of the social platforms: Instagram, X, right? It's called now. Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter or X, Facebook, Thread, and LinkedIn. Yeah, Michael Sunley. It's just my name.
Okay. And then just Google him, everybody out there, and it's amazing work. You can see his clips. You can see the work that he's done. And thank you. And if you ever want to come back on the show again, promote anything later on how this ends, you're more than welcome on the show anytime.
Great. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.